Welcome to Hard Truths with Hardy, a brand new podcast that's not probably going to resemble the ones you've already seen. Not your same old boring real estate advice, and probably some hard truths that you don't expect to hear. If you're looking for sugar-coated real estate advice, this is not the place to go. I've never been known for sugarcoating anything. We're glad you're here. New episodes are going to come out every Wednesday, so make sure to check back every Wednesday to see what we're talking about. So now let's talk about what we're going to discuss on our podcast, what you're going to hear and what you can expect. You're going to hear hard truths you might not want to hear, but need to hear, crazy client stories, and not saying that in a negative way, but gosh, we get some crazy stuff that happens. We'll never mention any names. We would never want to embarrass anybody, or I wouldn't want to. But, you know, everybody likes hearing the funny stuff. We'll also talk about some things going on locally, conversations with local Knoxville people. For example, we've got a builder that I work with coming up in probably about a month. He's extremely knowledgeable. He's doing a lot of new processes in his builds that other people aren't doing, such as flash and bat, and he's going to tell you about that. And he's really funny also. He came from Vegas. Can you imagine? From Vegas to Knoxville to start building. So we've got lots of fun things planned. Every week we'll answer real questions sent in by viewers. And so if you've got questions, make sure you send those in. You can send me a message on Instagram or on Facebook. No question is too crazy or too simple. I talk with new buyers all the time, and you know, it's perfectly normal to have questions, to not know about the different types of financing or how buying a house or selling a house works, and that's what I'm here for. I want to answer those questions. So if we're going to be spending time together every week, I feel like the proper place to start is you probably should know who I am. So I'm Gail Hardy, in case you didn't already hear, Hard Truths with Hardy. I come from Somerset, Kentucky. It's a pretty small town. It's a touristy type town on the lake, Lake Cumberland, if you've ever heard of it. There's not a lot there. It's a farming community other than tourism. And really, that's about it. Have you ever heard of those one-horse town that really just have one main street running through it? That's where I'm from. I do love my hometown. My sisters both still live there. One lives on our family farm, and the other doesn't live far away. So a little bit about me and my childhood. My parents moved around quite a bit. I was not one of those kids that they planned exactly. My mom had me at 38. My dad was 40. And I always used to ask, did you mean to have me? And my mom would get so mad. She was so offended by that question. She would always say, you know, kids aren't mistakes. And I'd be like, I don't think you planned me, but you know, whatever. Nobody has kids at 38 and 40 on, you know, with intention. My dad retired when I was 7 years old. And prior to that, he was a special agent in charge of the ATF in Kentucky. So he was gone a lot. He lived about 45 minutes away from where he worked. He traveled a ton. He did a lot of really cool things. And my mom worked for the General Electric factory in town. She worked swing shifts, so she'd work 1 week of days, 1 week of evenings, and 1 week of overnights. So my sisters took care of me a lot. And my sisters, there's a topic. One sister is 14 years older than me, and the other is 9 years older than me. So huge age gaps. I'm really close with both of my sisters. Our parents have passed. And one thing they really instilled in us was that, you know, blood's thicker than water, and that when everything else is gone, you'll always still have your family. And they were really, really big on teaching us that if anything happened, we were always supposed to stand together. And I think that's something we truly took to heart. If you come for one of us, you're going to get all of us. You know, we may fight amongst ourselves, but we'd come to bat for one another. My dad retired, like I said, when I was 7. And when he retired, he started farming full time. He grew up on a farm. They didn't have a lot of money when he was little. But, you know, started saving and, you know, buying rental properties. My granddad was the town sheriff, and he also did real estate. Oddly enough, kind of seems familiar. He died in a train accident before I was born, but my dad, I think, learned a lot from him, and he went into law enforcement and then subsequently started farming, and he bought a farm that needed to be cleaned up, and it had about 65 acres. And once he got that one cleaned up, he just kept on buying farms. Now, I'm not talking about, you know, being loaded and buying tons of those, but as older people in the community couldn't take care of their farms, he sometimes would buy those. I can remember when I was in high school, he bought one that had 4 old dilapidated houses on it, a mobile home. He tore all that down, put in fence rows. It was a job, and he made us work out there too, even though I didn't want to. He paid us minimum wage. I can remember helping straw and seed a new pond, and I made $28, and I thought this is what hell was. I did not enjoy the farm work. That was not for me. My sisters were much better at it than I was. I was thrilled to get a real job and get to work so I didn't have to work on the farm. I do think I learned a lot of good things from my parents. So I saw my dad. He would take these farms that weren't really in good shape and get them cleaned up and running. And it never failed that somebody would come along and offer him a lot more money than he had paid for it. And granted, he'd put money into it. But a good example of that was the one I mentioned that had 4 houses. He and my mom built a house on it when I was in college, and they planned to retire there, just a small brick ranch home. And a local doctor came along and offered him a lot more money than what he had in it. And so the next thing I know, that was gone, and they weren't moving there anymore. We had a farm that he grew up on. He bought it from my grandmother. We drove 3 hours away every weekend to mow the yard, to take care of it. And that was another one. He cleaned it up and got it running, and then later on ended up selling it. So I learned a little bit about real estate from him and knowing about my granddad's investments, and I was always interested in real estate. My dad always gave us each a job. So like for me, when he got older, he made me handle like a lot of his financial stuff and getting his taxes ready. My middle sister, handled the medical stuff. And so it kind of helped each of us learn a little bit about different things. And I think seeing what he was doing with his investments helped me gain more interest in real estate. So I worked for Walmart for 24 years. That's what I did prior to being in real estate. I started when I was in high school, and I worked as an hourly associate until I was in my senior year of college, and they let me intern then. So I interned for a year, and then the week I got out of college, they moved me a week later to Southern Indiana. Did not love it there at all. Everybody made fun of the way I talk and being Southern. So I stayed there about a year, and I was completely over it. I asked to be moved somewhere south, and so I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee. I'd never, ever been here. Didn't know anything about Knoxville, so I drove down here and found an apartment and started in management at the Clinton Highway Walmart. So since that time, I have worked in just about all of the local stores from Sevierville, Jefferson City, Easttown, Clinton Highway Halls. I mean, you name it, I've worked there. So after I had been with Walmart for 24 years, the last 2, I was over it, and I was ready for a change. I was 42 years old, and I knew that if I was going to do something, I needed to get on the stick and get it done. It took me about 2 years to decide to quit my job, because in my family, you don't quit jobs and you don't job hop. And I felt really guilty for thinking about losing, a career that I'd worked really hard on, but I knew my heart wasn't in it anymore. So one morning, I'd gone into work at 4 a.m. and at 9:30, I decided that was it. And I wrote an email and said I was taking early retirement. And I got in the car and went home. I texted my sisters and said, today's the last day. I left. I took about 3 months off and traveled. With Walmart, you don't get a lot of Christmases and Thanksgivings and things like that with your family. I was so, so excited to have Christmas with my family because I left on December the 13th. So that was the first thing. I got to stay home for Christmas, and I didn't have to go into the store and make sure we were reset the day after Christmas. I went on a couple cruises, and then 3 months later, I kept thinking about what I was going to do. I was looking at opening an insurance office with State Farm, and I had gone through their process all the way through writing a business plan. And the next step was to start interviewing for offices. And I thought to myself, can I do this for the rest of my life and be interested in it? I'm not real sure. I had a friend that had also left Walmart, and she was doing really well with State Farm. And I had gone to work with her for a little bit and thought maybe I could. And then I got to that point of getting ready to interview, and I said, I don't think this is for me. So I looked up real estate school, and found that I could start it in a couple of weeks in the beginning of March. And I went to real estate school and I loved it. I really enjoyed what we were learning. And I called a friend of mine and said, hey, I'm going to real estate school. And she said, I'll go too. So we went together, and we got out in a couple months. I had my first contract within a week of getting my license in May of 2018. Honestly, I've loved it ever since. I wish I'd done this 20 years ago. It's been such a ride. It's a different kind of customer service. People really appreciate you for the most part. Occasionally you get a crazy that's a little out there, but really it's very rewarding to help people and for them to appreciate that you're trying to go above and beyond and make sure that they make a safe purchase and get them the best deal. I'm so glad I made the change. I've really, really enjoyed real estate and my clients. They become family. It's kind of like for 60 days, you text and talk to this person every day, and then you sell the house or they buy a house, and then your little bestie is gone and they don't text you anymore. And I don't know why, but that always kind of hurts a little bit. I enjoy, getting to meet people, and sometimes I just text them to see how they're doing or call and say, hey, you want to go have coffee or get dinner? And, sometimes they answer and sometimes they don't, but I really enjoy it. There's clients that have become more like family and friends than just a client. I try to hold client events every quarter so that we can still keep up with them and, check in and see how things are going with their house. And maybe they'll remember us again in the future when they're ready to buy or sell, or if they have friends or family that are ready to buy or sell. It's been a great change for me, and I'm really excited that I made it. I don't know that I mentioned, I've actually been in Knoxville for 26 years. I came here in 1999. Just a funny aside, I came from Kentucky, okay? That's a basketball state. I really was naive and didn't know that people liked football, but they do. I was shocked. I came here right after Tennessee had won, I don't know, some kind of championship or something that I'm not even really into. But everybody was football, football, football. And I was so shocked that people loved it like they did. And nobody talked about basketball. And that was the strangest thing to me. I mean, we watched basketball every weekend in Kentucky. Like, going to a game when I was in a college was the biggest deal ever. So it was definitely a little bit different than where I'm from. But I have assimilated very well. I still don't love football. I don't care about it. I don't understand it. But, hey, go UT. So I've been here 26 years. When I came here, I never came with the intention of staying. I thought, like everything else, I would probably get moved again with Walmart because I'd already moved a few times and, been in a lot of different stores. But there's so many stores in the area, it worked out that they just kept shuffling me around to different stores as they needed people. And I truly began to love Knoxville. To me, it's a lot like home in Kentucky. It's just a little bigger. There's more things to do, but the people are so nice. I can't imagine living anywhere else. I can remember at one point, my parents really hoped that I would move back to Kentucky, and I toyed with it for a little while, but I'd made such a life here and such good friends that I couldn't imagine going back home. And it's only 2 hours and 15 minutes to my hometown, so I can visit when I want. I'm fortunate my family comes to visit quite a bit, and I love that too. I think they all really love Knoxville. I'm not sure why they don't just move here, really. I mean, we don't have state income tax. That's perfect. I don't think I'll ever leave Knoxville unless, maybe I can move to a beach town one day. I simply love it here. I think it's the right size town. I wouldn't want to live in Nashville or Los Angeles or something like that. It's perfect for me. We've got a beautiful scenery with the mountains as our backdrop. We've got wonderful people as neighbors, plenty of things to do, but it's not so big that you drown in it. So Knoxville's home for me. So you might wonder why you should come back and check out this podcast again and what makes me different. Well, I guess I'm a lot like my parents. My dad was pretty dry. I don't know that I'm as dry as he was, but he was pretty straightforward. He didn't mince a lot of words, and that's the way I've described myself on many occasions. I'm straightforward. People always know where they stand with me. I don't sugarcoat a lot of things, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but if you want to know if a house is bad and that I'm scared for you to buy it, I'll tell you. I truly take it seriously that my job is to look out for the best interests of my clients. There's a lot of rules and regulations in this job, and I try to walk that fine line of doing the right thing. Like, I'm not going to tell you if the schools are good or bad because that would violate the fair housing laws. But I'm definitely going to say, hey, I see here some cracks in the ceiling or some water staining, and we need to have that checked out. I'm not an expert. I'm not a home inspector specifically, but I've definitely learned things doing this job that you should look out for or that could be cause for concern, and I'm going to point those out when we go look at houses. Drainage, that's something that people don't think about. How is the water going to drain in your yard? We get a lot of rain here in Knoxville. We're not Seattle, but we average 10 days out of 30 per month that are rain. With that, you've got to think about how drainage goes. So that's something I think about when I go out and look at a house with clients. Something we talk about that most people don't think anything about. Just plan that if you want somebody that's going to look out for you, that's me. Something I notice in real estate, and we're so with sellers, sometimes they just want you to tell them what they want to hear. I'll give you an example. What I notice with sellers is that sometimes they just pick the agent that tells them they can sell the house for the highest price. What they don't think about is that price may not be realistic. So just getting somebody that tells you what you want to hear probably isn't going to be the best choice for you. So if you're looking for someone that just tells you what you want to hear, I'm not that person. I definitely don't sugarcoat a lot of things. But what I will give you are facts and statistics and data to back up what I'm telling you. It's important as a realtor to study the market. It's something that I take seriously, and I'm surprised to see how many people do not take seriously. Ask your agent if they can tell you what the average days on market is for the county or for the city or for your price range of home. Those are important things to know. That also a good thing to think about is, did you look at the homes that failed in my area before you came out to list my house? What didn't sell that should have, and why didn't it sell? These are the kinds of experiences I bring to you and the kind of data that I will share to back up the information that I'm giving you instead of just telling you what you want to hear. And I think that's what a good agent does. So I hope you come back, and I hope you check us out again. And I hope that Hard Truths with Hardy is something that will bring you value. So on next week's podcast, we're going to talk about fighting with your partner when you're house hunting, because that happens more often than not. You'd be surprised. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about me today, and I hope you'll come check us out again next week. And of course, don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Spotify. Of course, you can always link to us on Facebook or Instagram or through our client newsletter. And we hope to see you back again next week. And don't forget, I'm Gail Hardy, and I'm always happy to help you find your way home.